Hi, it's Leanne and I'm here today with my review of the third book that I've read from this year's long-listed Man Booker Prize nominees. That is The Mars Room by Rachel Kushner. Now, this was I think it was the only book that was actually on my TBR before the long list was announced. I was looking forward to reading it. I was expecting that it was going to be one of the more accessible books on the long list. As I was reading it, there was nothing to deny this suspicion. It is definitely, I think, having read 6.5 books on the long list, this is definitely the most accessible book that I've read so far. There's nothing bad about the prose. It's perfectly serviceable. I think it's got quite a bit of spark to it. You can tell that the book has been written with a fair amount of anger behind it. But there's nothing too complex there, nothing too exciting. Just a well-written book. I think this is what it is. The book follows Romy Hall mainly. We do get some chapters by other characters, such as the teacher in the prison that she is at. But the book mainly follows Romy Hall, who, as I just said, she's in prison. She has been given 2 life sentences for a crime that, she did commit, but she suffered quite an unfair trial, a trial where evidence that possibly could have helped her wasn't used. Her lawyer wasn't up to much good, and she's now learning to deal with life in prison, with the rest of her life in prison. So we meet quite a lot of the characters that she's in the prison with. We learn what conditions are like in this prison, which is in California. And Rachel Kushner herself has spent the last few years researching Californian prisons and the prison system, and in that state, possibly in the whole of the United States, but I know definitely in California. And the result of this is that this feels very much like an issue book, and I'm going to say this in big flashing lights. Issue book. It's very much, I never really felt like this was so much about Romy's story, but more just about the story of the prison itself. It actually felt at times, and looking back on it, more like a non-fiction book. I felt like I've learned a lot about the prison system, but I remember that a lot more than I remember anything to do with Romy's story. It could be read almost as a research project, and this in some ways is a good thing, because it does make the characters feel very real, very three-dimensional. But it also means that Kushner's desperate need to squash everything in that she's learned in the last few years has kind of overshadowed the story a bit. And this isn't helped by what I felt was a massive letdown of an ending. It was a very formulaic ending. It was like, as I say, like Kushner had kind of made up this story to go around the research that she'd been doing, but she didn't really have an idea of where this story was going to go. And the ending definitely didn't work for me. It was a massive letdown. The book itself, so that it's very much just, it's trying to propagate this theory of the cycle of neglect and poverty that leads people to go to prison and end up back in prison, that leads their children to go to prison, and it's just a constant ongoing cycle. And it's a laudable idea. It's a good thing to write about, but I feel like the idea could have been serviced a lot better by, like I say, either being written as a non-fiction book about real characters in the prison, or by actually sitting down and coming up with the absolute best story that could be told. It is a shame because I felt like there was a lot of potential here. It's had a lot of comparisons to Orange is the New Black in the reviews that I've seen of it. I've never seen Orange is the New Black. I'm kind of loath to compare the two anyway, because it feels like a very lazy comparison to make. But if you have watched Orange is the New Black, then apparently this may be the book for you. But I felt like, I hope it doesn't make the shortlist in the end, because there was nothing particularly inventive about it. It wasn't particularly exciting. It just didn't give me a whole lot. And I would hope that, I mean, I know of the books that I've read since, there are better books, and in the 6 books that I still have to read, I would be disappointed if we don't get a few that have more to offer than the Mars Room did. So that's a shame. It wasn't an offensive book in any way. As often happens, I think I would recommend it more just as an interesting read than as a potential award winner. But yeah, it's not going to be one of my favourites. So next I will be back with In Our Mad and Furious City, which, spoiler alert, is not going to be a very happy review either. I will see you then. Okay, thank you, bye.